All right, I got another order, but this is the first order I've had where I've actually got to make two different colors. The guy, on Instagram, this guy that wants to do this order, he either saw Instagram, TikTok, he loved the blue sapphire. But the problem is he wants to do blue sapphire with a blue tail. So I'm going to take you step by step with my first two-tone bait. First, I got to heat up this plastisol. I usually heat it up for about 4 minutes. Whenever it gets clear and the consistency of syrup, I'll bring it out. First, I'm going to make my tails. You got to make the tails for the flukes and the Senkos first. You can't use the main color first. You got to make the tails first. And I'm going to start with about 9 drops of the blue pigment from Lureworks. I'm going to mix that in, and I'm going to try to make it look pretty dark to kind of match the consistency of the dark blue flakes and the dark black in the bait itself. I've fished a lot on the Savannah River and the Ogeechee River, and making the tails blue on these baits seems to do pretty well. I honestly think that maybe on the Ogeechee River, it's a little bit better than the Savannah River at times. The Ogeechee River's got that dark stained water, and colors like Junebug and blue sapphire work pretty well. But the pigment in the bait right now looks pretty good. Looks like a dark blue. I'm going to go ahead and get these gloves on. I've learned the hard way. Got to have gloves. You really need to have long sleeves. Maybe even closed-toed shoes. I've already burnt myself several times. Going to get the Senko mold and the fluke mold clamped up together, and then I'm going to go ahead and pour this blue for my tails. Like I said, you got to have the tails made for the flukes and the Senkos first. Once it gets that consistency of syrup, then I'm going to take my big injector, and I can't quite fill up both the Senko mold and the fluke mold with one injector, but I can get the entire Senko mold full with the big injector, and I'm put a little bit more in the fluke mold, but then I'm going to have to get my little injector and fill up the rest of the fluke mold. But once you get those tails made, then comes a little bit more of a harder part. You got to wait for it to dry. And then you got to end up cutting the tails off of both the fluke and the Senko, and then you reinsert them into the mold. And then after that, of course, you got to get your other color, which is going to be blue sapphire that this guy wants. And so first, let's go ahead and open these up. I think they turned out pretty well. Here's the 3 flukes in the blue, and this is a 5.75 inch fluke. And here are the 5-inch Senkos. They look pretty good. That's a dark blue, and those tails will look really good on this bait. So I've got to end up cutting those off, and I'm going to go ahead and do 2 rounds of these tails, and I actually end up messing up one of the Senko molds. I got a little bit of air in there, but the great thing about plastisol and soft plastic lures is you mess up, you just cut it up, throw it back in the microwave, and you can make some more liquid. But all of my 3 fluke tails, well, there's a rookie mistake right there, me dropping it back in the plastisol, but all my fluke tails turned out to be pretty good. The Senko, I had to kind of redo that one time, but the best way to do it is once you get those done, you hold them down and you cut them. Here's the way I did it at first. I kept the worms in the mold, and then I cut them down. But if you have a second person, which I'll show you later in the video, you can hold all the worms down, and then that person can lift up and you can make some cleaner cuts. My cuts weren't that clean on the first round here, but this is a way that you can do it when you're by yourself. Just cut off the top part of the worm, leave them in the mold, and then cut off the bottom part. And then you're going to end up taking the top of your mold and closing it back on there. And make sure that they're all in there perfectly straight. Then you close your mold, and then you clamp it right away with the hole up top. I went ahead and I had some old blue sapphire with kind of some green flakes in there, but all I did is I added a bunch more blue flakes My customer wanted a ton of blue flakes, so I added those in there. They're going to match well with the blue tails. And I warmed it up for about 4 minutes, and then I just did it in 30-second increments after that. I forgot to turn on the camera, so you won't see me inject the mold, but here's how they turned out. I'm really excited about it. You have the black with the blue flake, and then you got the solid blue tail. Look at all those blue flakes. They got a little bit of green flakes in there, and the green emerald makes it look really good. The blue tail is a nice contrast. I'm very excited. That's why I'm knocking them back and forth there. But here comes the Senkos. The Senkos, I think, turned out really well as well. That dark blue on the tail is really going to bring some attention to the bait. And then when it's in sunlight too, all those flakes are going to shine in the sun, and it's going to look really good. All right, here's my second round. The fluke tails are really good. I thought they were fine. You just need to hold those 3 fluke tails in there while you make the cut in the exact same spot. But I did mess up some of the Senko tails, so that's why you see here I'm injecting again. I melted down the previous set of 5 Senkos and made the Senko mold again. And here's the second set of the blue sapphire with the blue tails. It looks really good. I think my customer got exactly what he wanted. And then here's me doing the Senkos again. Just cut them off the top, have your partner hold them, and then you make the exact same cut every single time. It's a lot easier with 2 people, and you can make those tails perfectly symmetrical. Here's the second round of Senkos. I do think they turned out really well. If you are interested in getting a custom bait, this guy wanted very specific. He wanted blue sapphire with solid blue tails. I don't know what river he's fishing, but I tell you, these will look really good on the Aggizi. Message me if you want some.